this year in the Bitcoin community, there's much talk about crowdfunding using Bitcoin. And I know that Irma, the next speaker, knows a lot about crowdfunding, so I asked her to tell us a bit about if, to her opinion, Bitcoin is fitted for crowdfunding. So please, an applause for Irma. And now we'll give the microphone to Irma, and questions, try to do it afterwards.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay, I hope that it works when I have to hold the microphone, this presentation. But let me start. My name is Irma Borst, and I am a researcher at the VU University here in Amsterdam. And I proudly call myself a crowdologist. What's that? That is that I'm very interested in online crowds. I had my PhD on crowdsourcing. I'm now very much involved in research on crowdfunding. And I see that it is really fascinating that the internet environment or the social networks are able to collect so many people around certain initiatives. I indeed know something about crowdfunding since we started 2 years ago a research project on this topic, together with some market parties, and we received a financial grant from the Dutch scientific organization, and we are looking in effective philanthropic crowdfunding. That means that it is not equity-based or not lending-based, but donation-based crowdfunding. And that is the reason why I was asked for this speech, that I know more about crowdfunding. But I was a bit surprised, because to my opinion, crowdfunding is quite something different than if you talk about the bitcoins. Crowdfunding is an innovative financial service, similar to what the Bitcoin is. But if you look what it is, then you can see that it is not really a currency. It is just collecting people together that all provide a small amount of money so that they can support a certain initiative. So I was wondering what type of similarities there could be if you compare the crowdfunding with the Bitcoin. And I'm not a Bitcoin expert, and that's why I will present some mechanism which apply for crowdfunding, but would like to have your opinions whether that is also applicable, seen, observed, or whatever for Bitcoin. So I'm not the expert. I think that you, the whole audience, when studying crowds, you always assume that the crowd is very intelligent, know much more than what you would know yourself. So I trust on that principle, and please provide your remarks on it and your arguments why you should think, okay, this is applicable or not at all. I hope that it is that it becomes a very interesting discussion. And instead of what the moderator said, the questions afterwards, just interrupt as you do right now. I like that.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I was thinking, now Bitcoin is a bit of an unusual currency because it's data mined and God knows what. But just returning to the idea of virtual currency. If we were, for example, to have a virtual currency which is time-based, based on time that people spend.
Yeah.
This is not a new concept in the world of virtual currencies.
No.
But if you're working on, let's say, a volunteer project or a project which is not commercially oriented, it has an idealistic background, and you work to create a virtual currency which is based on time, where people who are engaged in projects, or maybe contribute towards the project, offering advice, doing bookkeeping, rendering legal services, God knows what, or even volunteering, doing graphic design, making a website, and they build up a certain, they're being paid in this virtual currency,
Yeah.
based on time spent or pre-briefing. That
Yeah.
also might be a good way of putting projects off the ground, which are not directly commercially oriented. What are your thoughts about that? Have you pursued that sort of avenue?
You might be quite right on that. The example that you give exists for years. There is the Time Bank, which
Yes.
is, I think, more than 20 years old.
Yes.
And it is that whenever one puts some time in it, he can receive time of another person allocated or included in that network in return.
Yes.
So then indeed there is a type of currency. And you now see that besides the philanthropic crowdfunding, that you
Yes.
also see that different type of rewards that you get in return. There are type of credit systems
Yes.
which provide you a return. And indeed, if it is not the euro or the dollar used or whatever, so that you have a very specific financial return, then
Yes.
you could say that it is a type of virtual currency that is created within that community.
Yes.
There are some examples also here in Amsterdam,
Yes.
where, and I don't know how the credits are named, but where people in a certain neighborhood help each other.
Yes.
Yeah, that can be the case.
Yes.
Yeah, and then indeed, you do the transactions not with the normal financial currencies, but with a new one.
Yes.
And then it starts to become much more crowdfunding than I was thinking up front. Because I had in mind Bitcoin is just a currency. And of course you can also have crowdfunding projects which use the Bitcoin as currency.
Yes.
Together with, but that is something different from the concept
Yes.
that we just described.
Yeah.
Okay, good addition. So if we continue in this pace, then we will have a good discussion. Okay, I identified 3 mechanisms that you can observe in crowdfunding, and I will start with the first one. And that is that a lot of people are saying crowdfunding is democratizing financing services. And if you look at the parties that are involved in crowdfunding, I don't know whether you can read it on the screen, then you see that one party that is always or almost always involved in financing, the banks, are missing in this picture. One thing which is really a characteristic of the crowdfunding is that banks, until now, are not playing any role in the projects. So they are, I don't know whether that will remain the situation, that in time, and I think that, or at least that is my expectation, that in time banks will also involve in the crowdfunding projects.
Yeah, there's been some patents put on virtual currencies which have been totally rejected.
Yes.
Recently. Yeah, the Goldman Sachs tried to patent a virtual currency which the concept was already in existence. And
So what was the name of the currency?
I don't know the name.
So
But
go
it-
with that, right?
Okay.
it was a joke, it was completely rejected, it's just,
But I think, just to add on to this, I think that at least the Dutch government and a lot of governments around the world, they set up these sort of funds which act as a guarantee. So for small business, the government will offer a guarantee to the bank, for example, for advance loan to
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. So basically, in that role, the bank might play a part.
Yeah, and I
There is some
think,
sort of knowledge or expertise with regards to entrepreneurs and vetting entrepreneurs and sort of guiding entrepreneurs to success. Allegedly, I have big questions about this sort of competence of the bank. But anyway, there is an umbrella guarantee fund which is at the back of it, because otherwise the bank would not be willing and able to advance any credit to any debtor who has no guarantee or
yeah,
hard assets.
yeah.
They wouldn't
And
do it.
it can also be the case that if crowdfunding will really wants to really become a serious financing instrument, that the volumes, the crowdfunding volumes should increase, so that larger parties should be involved. So that's a type of hybrid financing structures that you will see. But besides that, banks are not in as a partner in the provision of crowdfunding services. It is also the case that there is a direct contact between the person that puts the money in and the one that
Correct.
receives it.
Yeah.
And that makes that investing in a crowdfunding project is different than investing in a green fund at a bank, because the person, the investor himself, is the one who decides on this is really a thing,
Correct.
a project that I support,
Yeah.
and I'm really motivated to bring this somewhat further, so I will support it. So the direct contact is different, and I think that is part of the democratizing process in it. And now I wonder how that works with Bitcoin.
There's many sites that are actually exactly the same as for the good stuff
Yeah,
that present projects and collect funds for them in Bitcoin. They already exist. There's quite a few.
that are the crowdfunding platforms.
Yes.
But the crowdfunding platforms didn't take up the role as the banks have now. It is not the case that they select on behalf of their sponsors certain projects. No, they put it on their website, on their platform, and they facilitate the project owner of the crowdfunding campaign to do his full campaign. So all the financial transactions will be dealt with, etc. But it is not the case that they select for certain sponsors certain projects. And of course, for the kunst will have a certain profile that you can expect only the projects that are related to culture and to arts on their platform. And of course, they will advise people saying, I think that your project have high chances of success or low chances of success, but still everyone is accepted to put their projects on the platform, or on the website. And that is different than normally for the role for the banks.
Yes, but it's the same as the Bitcoin crowdfunding sites. They're exactly the same.
Yeah, Bitcoin crowdfunding, I understand that as the crowdfunding where the currency used is Bitcoins, yeah? Why is Bitcoin in that respect, it is no different than when you use euros?
No,
It's basically the same thing.
Yes.
The only
Yeah.
difference is that one is traditional currency
Yeah.
and newly created or newly mined currency, but in principle there's no difference.
Yeah.
Whereas with the virtual currencies that I spoke of, time-related currencies, that is something completely new. I mean, the whole idea of the currencies.
Yeah, but my question was something different. The Bitcoin as a currency, can you also say that there is a democratizing aspect there?
Trust. The reason it is a currency, maybe I think what the discussion is, maybe the reason it is a currency in the first place, Bitcoin, is because there's trust in there. It's reliable, it's encrypted, so on and so forth. So that's what gives it its value.
Well, the banknotes are also secure in the sense that they've been printed in a particular way, security features. I mean, you can doubt it.
You can doubt it because they're fiat currencies. Because they're fiat currencies. Yeah, it's a similar thing.
I'm not defending all the existing currencies.
Sorry, another one.
So I'm actually not sure if this answers your question, but a great attribute of Bitcoin is that you wouldn't actually need the crowdfunding platform. You wouldn't need the website in between. You can just send your Bitcoin to a certain address, and when there's enough Bitcoin at that address, it's automatically forwarded. Or if there's not enough, it's automatically sent
I
back.
can do the same thing with Ideal. I can send my money on PayPal.
So you'll need Ideal, which is a company, or you'll need PayPal, which is a company. With Bitcoin, you can actually program it on the network without needing.
Can you say that's similar in crowdfunding, that relationships between people are different because there is now the direct relationship between the investor and the one that gets the money? That similar thing happens in the Bitcoin, or is Bitcoin just another currency? I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
you heard of the Swarm coin?
Yeah, the Swarm, I know as another term for the crowds.
No, I mean, the Swarm coin is a, don't know if anyone knows the Swarm coin?
Yeah.
It's an alternative Bitcoin. It's seen as a branch. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of coin. Especially aimed at providing crowdfunding campaigns for new issues.
Okay.
Basically a crowdfunding platform for Bitcoin, like for crypto.
Yeah. What it does is, the difference with the regular crowdfunding is that the coin itself can be used and bought as an investment within the project itself.
Yeah.
But they can't spend it. The ones who receive it, they can't spend it because it's limited to provide a safeguard for the investors. And that's in a way different than when you use regular currency. Because they can exchange any regular currency for another product or service, but they can't exchange the specifically earmarked coins.
So how do you pay your return? How do you make your return?
Do you get any
Okay, so
return, or is it just a donation?
How do they use it at all?
Well, how I understood it is that that Swarm coin was designed to create the possibility to crowdfund something. But then after a crowdfunding project gets sold to a bigger party, for example, the value doesn't evaporate, but the value of that investment can grow. So, for example, you had the funding of the OpenVR goggles, Oculus, and Oculus Rift was sold to Facebook. But many funders didn't receive any extra returns from that.
Okay.
All of them. It was a gift-based crowdfunding. What we're talking about is equity-based crowdfunding.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very different. In its nature and also in legal. Most of the countries in the world don't allow for equity crowdfunding because it doesn't go through the stock exchange laws.
That is changing, especially when now in the US the Jobs Act is accepted, and equity crowdfunding will be made possible. But indeed, I saw some announcements that the use of bitcoins in a crowdfunding project was not allowed by law. Yeah.
One of the interesting things, of course, about Bitcoin and any cryptocurrency, this is that things are transparent also. One of the things that a lot of people are quite, I know this from charity. There are a lot of stories about charities misappropriating funds, using them in ways that the investors didn't want to use them. This is one of the things that is well, it is possible, but you will get into big trouble because you can actually see where the money goes. Unless it leaves the system into fiat, but then you can at least question where did this go. It allows for control by the investors on the process, and that is something that I see at least a lot of people who invest in these kinds of projects that I see around me are very interested in. I see also a lot of people getting into trouble with it, by the way. That's the other side.
No, but you are right that transparency is an important thing also in crowdfunding. That you see that when people are quite committed and supported your project, they expect information in return. So you cannot say thank you and just go ahead with your project and do not report any back. So you really must give some information back. So if this mechanism also works in Bitcoin, that transparency is increased and that also the people providing Bitcoins have a better view on what happens in the project, in the company or organization, then I think that there are some similarities. Okay, the next thing. It is said that crowdfunding boosts the innovation capacity. What is behind it? If there is a large crowd which makes the decision to go ahead with a certain project or not, that at least they will choose far more practical innovations instead of things that are more the hobbyist project that do not that may contribute to fundamental research, for example, but are not the ones that can
Scale.
that you think that a lot of people are really waiting for it. So this type of market validation by not just a limited number of experts, but a large group of people, which in the end become the customer who finally accept it, makes that it boosts innovation. And a second argument what is used in this perspective is that people are saying, okay, if you invest in a social venture for crowdfunding and the amount of money that you put in it is just limited, you do not expect such a high return on it. So or you don't only expect a financial return, you want also have a social return. If the project contributes to the society in one or another way, or when you see that really social objectives are fulfilled, then it can be that people are willing to give it for free, or that they reduce their financial return requirements. So in that sense, then you see that it is argued that crowdfunding will specifically boost social innovation.
So are you saying that you can define value any way you want to? Yes.
Yeah, it is not only the financial value which is created, so the profits in time, but if you say that it is going to improve quality of life, for example, for healthcare innovation.
Famine relief, anything like that.
Yes, or increases social inclusion of people because the project makes that far more people are employed or really active. So then you can say, okay, I think that this is really something good which will be achieved in the project. So I accept that there is no financial return, or that the financial return is lower than normal.
Or it's not financial, it's social, as you said.
Or social. Yeah.
You see, the problem with the banks has been, as a lawyer, I've had a lot of small business clients over the years. The problem has always been funding these small business ventures. I mean, the banks are not really interested in it unless there's a guarantee from sort of an umbrella fund from the government or what have you. The time and the extra hassle that they have to invest to look into and to research this entrepreneur, that is the big problem.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing that we're getting alternatives in the marketplace, which makes it possible to creatively finance ventures. I think that's a very good thing.
Yeah.
Only you have to take care of that you need some form of regulation and protection for the small investors. I mean, it's like marktplaats, that people buy a telephone and they don't get the telephone delivered. I mean, you can wait for things that will go wrong in this type of good faith financing. That's going to happen. I mean, it's almost open invitation to people with bad intentions.
Yeah, especially when you add the argument that innovation most of the times comes from the small and medium-sized companies.
Yeah.
And at this time, still, those companies are having difficulties to get the financing.
Well,
and
bank loans may continue at the moment.
and the amounts that they need are below the 250,000 euro. So if those are the ones that are financed through crowdfunding, that will also boost innovation.
You probably need a combination of both. You need the government to step in with serious funds to help small businesses, because I think the government is really very negligent in helping small business entrepreneurs, even existing ones who have very strong.
Can I just say something? Just because it's important to understand that crowdfunding essentially doesn't help small businesses, especially not the kind you might find out here in the street. Well, this is the center of Amsterdam, so maybe they need less help, but if you go a little bit further or to a different city, small businesses, I'm pretty sure, don't even, half of them have never heard of crowdfunding, and the other half don't use it.
No, okay, but this is recognized that especially the government said, okay, we have to spend money on making crowdfunding more known among all type of SMEs, and also
what is a coffee place? Sorry, this is Netherlands. How do you call that in a
cafe?
Yeah, cafe. Okay, sorry. So what is a cafe going to do crowdfunding for? So some businesses can do crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is basically something you use when you create something novel. When what you have is unique. And that's why people are going to notice you in the distraction space called the internet. Yeah. So the only way I think that crowdfunding is really interacting and boosting innovation capacity is by allowing more unique players to connect directly with their strange audiences. Yeah. So today we are a very fragmented society. Some people like this thing and that thing and the other, and you are able to get the money directly from your audience instead of having to convince the bank that this audience exists. Yeah. And that is the biggest difference, but it's something that I don't think like traditional businesses can really use this in any way.
You can do equity and crowdfunding for very boring traditional businesses. I think as long as you can find a way to do the screening process efficiently, I think it's much better than having to buy only the Philips stock or whatever. Just buy some little bits of equity in a lot of different small restaurants.
In your neighborhood cafe. That's interesting. So now that's a cooperative conversation. Because you talk about the customers owning part of the business.
Not just the customer, it could be the customer.
You see that types of variations rise, that the previous corporations that are well known here in the Netherlands, the Rabobank, which is now a large bank, resulted from the corporation of farmers.
Cooperative, and it's still cooperative.
Still cooperative, yeah, okay, but that was known also on a very small scale. And indeed, there are now the broodfonds who also provide for small businesses that need money, which do not have that much innovation or innovative product or services, that they have alternatives available to a certain extent. And I agree that there should be more, but this is in development.
Irma, please go to an end.
Oh.
2 questions. If people have 2 questions, because half an hour is
Really short? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, may I just launch my last mechanism? And this is very much related to the research that I'm doing, is that nowadays crowdfunding is really among the family and friends networks of the project owner. And if crowdfunding really wants to become a serious financing instrument, then you should reach the distant crowds. And there the role of social media activities will be really crucial. And we are doing research how that should be via Facebook, whether you should use Twitter, and what all the differences are between the ones that are very close to you and normally are quite willing to give you some money versus the distant funders. How much money are they willing to spend for you? And I wanted to raise the question, social media, how crucial is that for the development of the Bitcoin? But we can discuss that afterwards, because I really understand that I have to stop.
Yes. One question.
One question. So, your research focuses on social media.
Yeah.
Will you take also into account the lesser known social media networks?
Sorry, the lesser
The
known?
lesser known ones, like decentralized ones, IRC type chat networks, but also networks like RetroShare that might have a very small slice of impact.
No, because what my first conclusion is, and I'm doing research on the projects for the Kunst, is that with exception of the most successful ones, they already use it to a very small extent, the Facebook and Twitter. And those are the main ones that they use. And other networks, they do not use. And I can well imagine that, especially if you want to have a very large audience, you choose for the large social networks. Although, on the other hand, if you want to really address the people with a specific interest, then specific social networks would work as well. Okay, thank you. If you have any questions or answers to my questions, please mail me. I would be happy to hear.
Or, talk to you right away. Irma, thank you for giving me a presentation. We will now go to the next speaker, but we will first switch laptops. So if people want to get a fast drink, then now's the time.